Alrighty guys, welcome back to Kinstretch this week. Let me just get my brightness down a little. All right, there we go. So welcome back to Kinstretch this week. This, I think, is the final overview series that I'll be doing on all the different joints. Today we'll be covering knee and ankle, which I'm really excited about. Two joints that are really difficult to find the correct position to train and the correct leverages to train. So hopefully some of the stuff that we go over today will give you some ideas on how you can access the tissue in a really strong way. There's all sorts of shit that you're gonna need for today's class, and you might not have all of it, and that's fine. Here are the things you definitely wanna have. You definitely wanna have some sort of pad or like a folded up towel for your knees. You're also going to want to have, at the very least, a yoga block, and then some sort of weight, like a kettlebell. This one's 24 kilo, which should be plenty for creating immovable objects. So sometimes we need to be able to push against something, and we need that something to be heavy and not move, and we also need it to be something that we're not holding in place. This will take place later when we're doing some of the work on the knees. Bonus stuff, tennis balls are always great, but we won't use them other than for just gripping. A slider will be helpful for the knee drills. This is a furniture slider, really great piece of equipment for all sorts of Kinstretch work. And then handy dandy slant board. This one was custom made by one of our members, Jason. So if you want one that looks like this, let me know. I'll get you guys in touch. But otherwise, you know, for Kinstretch purposes, just a slant board off Amazon will be perfect. But I wouldn't necessarily take one of those Amazon ones and start doing heavy squats on it or some of the stuff that you might see us doing. So let's get started. We are going to start with cars in the half kneeling position. So kind of just warming up the feet and knees and ankles right from the get-go. When you're in half kneeling, you are going to do generally one side and then the other and then switch. That's how I like to do it personally. So here we go. We're in half kneeling. Left knee is on the ground. Arms are back behind your back. You can clasp your hands and just sort of reach your fingers down towards the ground. And let's begin with the neck. Looking down to your chest, over to the left armpit, back to the back left pocket, eyes up to the ceiling, over to the right, down to the right armpit, down to center. We'll do two more in that same direction. We'll get the other side when we switch knees. One more. Big circles through the neck here. And next, T-spine. So same thing. I'll probably end up covering the mic here. Arms across the chest, coming down to center, rotating towards the left hip, leaning the left shoulder back towards the left back pocket, chest up center to the ceiling, over to the right hip, forward, center, two more big circles just like that. And one more just for good measure. Can't remember if I did 3 or 4. There we go. Kind of sticking with this theme of to the left. Let's do left shoulder blade now. Shrugging up, roll forward, down, back, up, forward, down, back, up, forward, down, back, reverse, forward, up, back, down, forward, up, back, down. Left shoulder, arm across the midline, up to overhead position. Palm forward, palm out. That triggers internal rotation. Try to keep spinning as you reach back behind you. Reverse. Up and back. External rotation. Overhead position and across. Is my mic even on? Okay, good. You never know. Number 2. Internal rotation. Come down to meet the thigh. Reverse. Reach up and back behind you. External rotation. Come to overhead, across, and one more. Next, left elbow, palm facing forward. Flex, turn the palm away from you, extend, turn, flex, turn, extend, turn, flex, turn, extend. Keep it pointing towards your thigh. Flex, turn, extend, turn. 2 more. And relax. Next, the wrist, so left wrist. For this one, to anchor it well, I like to lean my right elbow forward onto my thigh here, and then grab the left forearm so that I can kind of hold this guy in place really well. Circles here, going from the palm up position. 2, 3, reverse. 1, 2, 3, and switch sides. Actually, well, so you could use a support like the couch. I'm going to use my slant board here for this. So stay with your left knee down. I guess I probably want to go this way. So left knee is down. Now we're going to do hip cars. So we'll be moving through the right hip here. And here we go. I don't know if this will actually be enough balance. I guess we'll find out. Okay. Flex the hip. AB duct. It's not. Internal rotation. Yeah, you kind of need a dowel or like a broomstick for that, which I'll demo. I just wasn't sure if I would need it, but I do. You guys are like, you didn't say we would need this. All right, so generally, stick on the side of the hip that's moving is your best stabilization. So flex the hip, AB duct, internally rotate, and bring it down to match the knee, reverse. Number 2. Maybe if I had put the slant board over here. All right, for the knee, pretty simple capsular cars for the knee here. Just take your heel, spin it inside, heel, spin out, heel in, out, in, out. Try to keep this knee right where it is. Back and forth for 5. And then ankle cars, big circles here. You could do it on the heel, trying to almost like feel yourself pushing that ankle forward into plantar flexion and then pushing through the heel to bring it back into dorsiflexion. Very good. And now we go to the other side. So hands back behind your back again. Now the right knee is on the ground, working the right side. Down to chest, look over to the right armpit, lean the right ear back to the right back pocket, eyes up, look over to the left shoulder, left armpit, down to center, number 2, same direction. And number 3. T-spine, same thing, arms across the chest, down, rotate towards the right hip, right shoulder back, chest up to center, over the left hip, fold forward and center. Number 2. And number 3. Right shoulder blade, shrug, forward, down, back, shrug, forward, down, back, shrug, forward, down, back, reverse, forward, shrug, back, down, forward, whew, shrug, back, down, one more, full shoulder across the midline, overhead position, internal rotation, reach back, come down to meet the thigh, reverse, reach up and back, externally rotate, overhead position and across. Number 2. Half kneeling cars are probably one of your longest practices just because you have to sort of switch sides for each one. Elbow, 3 here. 1, 2, 3. Reverse, palm down. 1, 2, 3. And the wrist. 1, 2, 3. Reverse. 1, 2, 3. Left hip, lift up, abduct, internal rotation, meet the other knee, reverse. If you can, come across a little bit with that foot, encourages external rotation of the hip here so that when you lift, the hip is externally rotated. Abduct, internal rotation. And one more. And reverse. All right, knee here. Knee is in line with the hip. Heel inside, pick it up. Heel outside. Back and forth. 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, and the ankle. Big circles, 3, 4, 5, opposite, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. So let's begin with rotational capacity of the knee. Internal and external tibial rotation. This is where the slider can come in handy. I don't know if this rubber surface that I'm training on will allow too much movement of that slider. Actually, it looks like it'll be okay. If you don't have a slider, for capsular work here, a towel on a hardwood floor will also work, or like a magazine or some sort of hardcover book on the carpet will usually work as well. So let's just review capsular rotation of the knee real quick. So we're in half kneeling, you're on your left knee, right knee is up and forward, right foot is on the slider. To get capsular rotation, all you have to do is think about spinning the shin clockwise. In this case, that would be tibial external rotation, and counterclockwise tibial internal rotation. So let's get 5 of those again. 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 4. You're trying to keep your thighs still. 5, 5. All right, so that's your tibial rotation. So now let's talk about how to increase that range of motion. Generally, when trying to increase range of motion, we're going to work with pales, rails, contractions. So I took the slider out. I guess actually I could keep it on here, but just make sure that that you can, like, there's not a lot of slider on the outside of the foot. So you don't want to be directly in the middle because that's going to make it really hard to get the block in the right place when we go to do this. But let's train external rotation first. So you're on your slider. Ankle is pretty much right under the knee. You're going to externally rotate as far as you can and then place the yoga block along the inside of your foot. Once you're in that spot, stick the kettlebell there, and now when you try to internally rotate, going nowhere. So this becomes not only our stretch position for improving range of motion, but it also becomes our position to contract from. So when you're here, let's begin contractions. Might be good to have the broomstick here or a dowel just to hold on to. When you're ready, try to spin your big toe into the kettlebell. And let's ramp that force up. Yeah, see, actually, okay, here's why we're going to take the slider away. When you create that moment, that torque, your heel is actually going to slide out from under you because of the slider. So best option here really is to have nothing under your foot. For what it's worth too, if half kneeling is becoming really difficult for you, you can actually sit and do this exact same drill. So you don't have to be in a kneeling position like I am. So anyway, here we go. Rotating big toe into that kettlebell. Ramping up 20, 30% effort, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90. Find safest, greatest effort for 10. 4, 3, 2, 1. Try to peel that big toe away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I actually got a pretty fair amount off that block, so that's good. Lots of tibial external rotation here. Same thing, set number 2. I like hand on the knee here to try to just keep that hip where we want it. When you're ready, drive big toe towards that bell and into the yoga block. 10, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Try to peel it away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now let's switch from external rotation to internal. So hip and thigh are still in the same spot. You're just going to pick those toes up and now spin as far into internal rotation as is comfortable for you. Block on the outside of the foot, kettlebell in place to make that object pretty much immobile. From here, same thing as before. Rotate the pinky side of your foot into that bell. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1. Try to bring your big toe in further. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whew, this actually is tough in half kneeling. When you're ready, second set, drive pinky side into that kettlebell. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1, and try to pull away. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Now, we'll go back to half kneeling. I'm actually going to go ahead and set up in a seated position, I think. Number one, because it's tough for me, but I want you guys to also see that this is possible. So, if I'm sitting here, the setup is exactly the same. Now we're going to set up passive range liftoffs. So we're going to externally rotate the tibia almost as far as it can go, but we're going to leave a little bit. And then the goal will be to rotate the foot away from the block and return it, all right? So, primarily this right leg, doesn't really matter what the left is doing. Right leg straight out, ankle below the knee. Pick up the right toes, rotate them as far out as you can. Get that block on there and place the kettlebell on. And now if you pick up your foot, you should be able to try to rotate away from the block. If you can't, just back that block up a little bit and that'll give you some working room. So let's do a set of 10. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And the other side. Turn as far into internal rotation as you can. Leave a little room so you have a range to work through. Same as before. Try to rotate in. 1, not much here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Awesome. So, very simple pails, rails, and passive range liftoffs for the knee. So let's go to the other side. We'll just stay in this seated position. I think it actually is more effective, at least for me. So I would imagine it is for most of you guys too. So same thing as before. Lift those toes up, externally rotate as much as is possible. I guess the block is okay. I think there's maybe some better objects that could be used here, but I'm gonna try a tall block orientation on this one. All right, so you should have a little stretch potentially towards the inside of the knee when you're twisted into external rotation. From here, let's begin pushing into the block and the bell as if you're trying to spin your toes back in that direction. Ramping up to safest, greatest effort and hold for 10. 3, 2, 1, and then try to pull off the block, which I can do. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Set number 2, drive big toe into the kettlebell as if you're trying to spin clockwise here. Safest, greatest effort. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And try to pull off that block. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Whew. This is tough. This is actually, I think, a much better contraction in the seated position because you're not worried about balance. So this may actually be a better place to train this from. So there's my tibial external rotation, pretty intense there. Let's bring that foot up and find internal rotation right about there. Block on the outside of the foot this time. Kettlebell in position. And rotate into the block. Safest, greatest effort for 10. Pretty strong here. I'm like moving this block, no problem. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and pull off the block towards the inside if you can. Try to keep that foot flat on the ground. You don't want it to like invert or evert too much, which is tough on this side. Here we go. External rotation into the kettlebell. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1. Try to pull it inside further. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's return to passive range liftoffs for tibial external rotation. So again, rotating the toes out, but maybe not as far as the first time, because you want a little bit of room to be able to move back and forth when you're doing liftoffs. So here we go. Pull the big toe away from that block, pivoting on the heel. 1, 2. You could even keep it on the ground and just try to pivot. 3, 4. That's a little much there. There we go. 5, 6, 7. Should feel outside of the shin, working really hard. 9, 10. Whew. Opposite side. And same thing. Pull away from the block 10 times. 1. The smaller the range, the better. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, so that's rotational capacity of the knee. Quickest way to address capsular or mobility problems, even if you're having trouble with knee flexion, knee extension and things like that. These drills are going to be really, really helpful, really important. So let's go ahead and move to knee flexion and extension. I'm just going to demonstrate a few drills there. We'll get this box out of the way. All right, keep the slant board over here. So this is where you're going to want your pad for your knees. We're going to go into a quadruped position and try to train passive range holds for knee flexion. So this is a drill that I like a lot. A lot of people like to train their knee flexion always in this like straight hip position, which is good. But this is one people don't necessarily tap into, which is this flexed hip training. So what you're going to do is untuck your toes, set them on the ground. We're going to sink back into the legs as far as is comfortable for you, which brings your knee into its deepest amount of flexion. From here, squeeze your heels to your butt, and then we're going to shift weight forward and try to bring the feet with us. As soon as they come off the ground, that's your passive range knee flexion position. So you could see if I go here, squeeze my heels towards my butt, right here is where they both come off, and in theory I would be holding. If you need a counterweight, just having a kettlebell here might be helpful. So here we go, deep knee flexion. Squeeze your heels towards your butt. Try to keep that knee bent as you start to sit up, and bring those feet off the floor. Hold for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Set back down. Come into that passive range flexion. Deep breath in. Squeeze your heels to your butt. Start sitting up. The moment they come off the floor, hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Same thing. We're going to get at least 5 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Relax. Now, some of you guys who can't get very low into this knee flexion position, that's okay. You're just going to be training this from a slightly different angle. Final rep, here we go. Deep breath in, squeeze your heels towards your butt. Shift forward until you can pick those feet up and hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. So just as an example, if you're only able to go back this far before your knee feels a little funky, do the same thing. Try to pick your feet up off the floor if you can. If you can't, you have to shift your body weight forward until they start to come up. All right, so let's just straighten out that knee for a second. We're gonna do that one more time. I like that one a lot. It's actually really hard. Most people, I think, maybe don't give that one enough credit. You can train the knees from this position one at a time if you used a yoga block. So you can, if I'm like this and my hip is directly over my knee, I want to find the height at which it becomes very difficult to lift off of this object. So one yoga block on its own is not enough for me. Now I could make that harder by just sitting back a little further and trying to lift off of that object. But just some food for thought there. So same thing as before. We're going to sink down deep into the knees. This is generally the most knee flexion one can exhibit. Squeeze your heels into your butt. Start to shift forward and try to bring the feet off the ground right there. 2, 3, 4, 5. I'll try to set it up so you can see right when my feet leave the ground. Here we go. Squeezing heels to my butt. And right there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Back down. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, squeeze heels to your butt. Shift forward. 3, 4, 5. Last one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Whew. Now, if you wanted to, you could also train, we'll do one set here, passive range lifts from this same position. So you want to try to roughly find the point where you can lift both feet off the ground. Keep sitting back until that gets a little bit harder. So right about here for me. And now you can see barely getting those feet off the ground. I can put my head on this bell for more stability. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So all the same, you are challenging the knee flexion position and then training the regressive tissue, the hamstrings, to try to either maintain that knee flexion position or increase it. So that is knee flexion. Let's go to knee extension, which is a little bit harder to train, but can be done. All right. Actually, another yoga block can be helpful here. Whew, my hamstrings are torched. Okay. So, knee extension, we're just going to use a seated position for this here. This is a really, really basic version of what we want to do in knee extension. We're not really going to train Pales rails here. This is a terminal knee extension drill. So maybe you can't actually get your knee as straight as this is. So instead of a yoga block, maybe, actually, no, that's the other way. Maybe instead of the flat yoga block, what you need is the yoga block totally under your knee. Now, the hard part here is contracting the heel into the ground. That would be Pales rails contractions. So what I would do if I was going to train this, you're going to grab the block, you're going to hold on to it, and you're going to squeeze your heel into the ground as if you're trying to bend your knee through the floor. So that's a regressive contraction, or rather progressive tissue in this case. So squeezing into the floor, and then I'm going to try to extend the knee. Now you can see I have a fair amount of knee range from this position. So if I drop down in the block, same thing, still a fair amount of range. This might be where I would train passive range liftoffs. If I go flat to the ground, I can get a little bit of lift from my heel, maximum quad contraction. So even just like the tiniest little bit of assistance, I'll take my gardening pad under my knee this time, and you can see much less off the heel. So it's going to be different for everyone depending on how much you can straighten your knee. But find the right thing for you, and let's train it. We'll do 2 sets of passive Pales rails, and then some passive range liftoffs. So here we go. You're going to grab onto whatever that object is. You could even grab onto the thigh, or like push down on the thigh. Whatever it takes to just push through that heel as if you're trying to bend the knee. Maybe even having like a kettlebell here would give us some good leverage. So let's try that. Again, whatever works for you to do this. So here we go. I'm going to drive my heel into the ground, left heel. You can even see a little bend start to take place. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and try to lift that heel off the ground. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse. Drive heel into the ground as if you're trying to bend the knee. 4, 3, 2, 1, and try to lift that knee. 5, or lift the heel, idiot. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. All right, so that is in principle how you would train Pales rails for end range knee extension. Now let's do the liftoff. So again, however high you need to elevate this knee to lift your heel off the ground, that's the spot for you. So here we go. 10 reps here, lifting the heel off the ground. 1, I'm actually going to take my assistance away and see if I can get a hard enough contraction to lift my heel anyway. Here we go. 1, 2. I'll show you guys. Very tiny movement, but you can see my heel leave the ground here. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Look at that quad contraction there. Here it goes, last one. There you go. So that is my thigh on the ground, and I'm basically trying to lift my heel just a little bit higher than that. So let's do the other side. This actually, I think, feels really, really good. All right, I think this, at least for me, having this bell as an anchor was really helpful. Often, if you can anchor yourself, you can create a much harder contraction through the tissue that you're looking for. So here we go. Pales rails for the right knee, driving heel into the ground. And here we go. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1, reverse, try to lift the heel off the ground and straighten the knee. 4, 3, 2, 1, drive heel into the ground. Don't really worry about orientation of the toes too much. You can point your foot, you can pull it back. Just think about driving that heel down through the ground. 4, 3, 2, 1, and try to straighten the knee. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Final set here. Passive range liftoffs for the knee. Whoops. Same thing. Okay, there we go. Same thing as before. So I've got no assistance under here. That might not necessarily be your situation. Here we go. Watch the right foot. I'm going to contract my knee and get that right heel just off the ground. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know if you guys can see right down here, but it lifts. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Whoo! All right. So we have covered knee rotation, knee flexion, knee extension, all very, very safe positions. The principles don't really change. So if you can get your leg or your knee into the same position that we trained it in before, and you're just in a different spot, then that's great. There's no difference fundamentally between what I was doing on the ground and doing half kneeling liftoffs for the knee or something like that. So just some food for thought. Now, this is where you're going to want your handy dandy slant board for some of our ankle work, and you're also going to want your yoga blocks still. So my slant board is insanely long, so I'm just going to set it up right here. All right, I have the downward slope going to the right. All right, now it obviously is opposite for you guys, but I would set it up this way so that we can follow each other's words. So sloping down to the right. Actually, I'm going to want, you know what? Let's do this like we did before. You can do this seated, which really just seems to make it easier to set up. So this is only like 20 degrees of angle here, of slope, so it may not be end range. The point being, if you look at my ankle here, I can probably put it on the ground and get even more inverted, and that's okay. We can try to explore end range inversion type training, but it may be a little more difficult than it would seem, and this is also just an overview. So take the slant board, and if your right foot is on the slant board, that right ankle is going to be inverted. So you're going to place the yoga block just on the inside of your foot. And what you want to do is try, actually the best contact point is really the inside, this bone of your ankle. Place the yoga block right there, hold it in place. You're going to try to push your ankle into the yoga block. If you could do that, you would go into E version. So see how the outside of my foot starts to come up? But if I block that, it's now a contraction against an immovable object, right? So then I can go in the opposite direction and try to evert further. And so this is what we'll play with, okay? So yoga block is on the inside of the foot. It's pushing against that bone of my ankle. We're going to do pails, rails, contractions here. So start driving that ankle bone into the yoga block. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Pull away. See if you can create space between the yoga block and the bone of your ankle. 3, 2, 1. You might get some cramps in your arch here. That's okay. Reverse, drive that ankle bone into the block. It's as if you're trying to lift up the outside of your foot. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Opposite. Try to pull it away. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Drive ankle bone into the block. Final set. Four, 3, 2, 1, and pull it away. 4, 3, 2, 1. Alrighty. Now we're going to go to the opposite foot, opposite stimulus here. So now we've got an everted ankle. We're going to put the yoga block on the outside of the foot and do the exact same thing. And then we'll flip the slant board around. So here we go. I am trying to sink the inside of my left foot down as far as possible with this board, all right? Then yoga block is going to come right up against that outside bone of the ankle and hold it in place. When you're ready, drive ankle into the yoga block. Again, as if you're trying to tilt your foot, the inside of your foot up. I know it's hard to see, but hopefully you guys can see this. Your intention is to try to tilt up onto the outside of your foot, but because this yoga block is here, you're not going to be able to do that. It's just going to be the intention. So, cool. This is a great angle. But let's work with it for a minute. All right, here we go. This seems to work better. When you're ready, safest, greatest effort for 10, driving outside of the ankle into the yoga block. 4, 3, 2, 1. Try to sink that big toe down further. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse, drive ankle into the yoga block. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let it sink down. 3, 2, 1. And we'll spin this around. So you're just going to take your slant board and change its orientation so that we can train the opposite movements on the ankles. So now with your right foot on it, your right foot is everted. Get that yoga block right up against the outside of the ankle, and then we can go ahead and begin. So drive outside of the ankle into the yoga block. Safest, greatest effort for 10. It's like you're trying to create an arch in the foot. 3, 2, 1. Try to collapse that arch. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Set number 2. Drive outside of the ankle into the block. Try to put an arch in the foot. 3, 2, 1. Reverse. Drop it down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the other side. Alrighty. So this time, create as much of an arch as you can in the foot. Set that ankle up, or set that yoga block up on the inside of the ankle. Try to collapse the arch and push the ankle into the block. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1. Try to create an arch. Pull back from that yoga block. 3, 2, 1. Second set. Drive ankle into the yoga block. I've kind of got my arm pinned between my leg and the block here, so block can't really go anywhere. I can push really hard with my ankle. 3, 2, 1, and sink in. 3, 2, 1. All right. Now that's just one of a million ways that you could train ankle inversion, eversion. You could train it right here in a seated position. You could train inversion by putting both feet down on the floor and bringing your knees together as close as is comfortable for you. This is a tough position, though, to do pails rails from, at least in my experience. I like the slant board a lot, but you could see I can get way more range out of this ankle here than I could with the slant board, but a little bit tougher to create the contractions. So, you know, there's a couple different benefits to both positions. Alternatively, you could prop the ankle up here, invert it with your hand, and try to train it as well. So a couple different options, but more than likely, if you need specialized ankle FRC, we're probably working one-on-one together because it's a lot more complicated than most stuff. So final drill, let's work combat stance ankle dorsiflexion. Sort of the classic position here. If you need a knee pad, place your right knee on that knee pad, and left foot is going to be about 45 degrees out from that right knee or that right thigh. When you press on this thigh, you're going to get a stretch along the backside of that calf or Achilles tissue. So let's just hang here for a little bit. Couple breaths. This is great. I'm actually going into an upper body training session right after this, so just did my whole lower body. All right, here we go. So ankle pails rails, start driving down into the floor. Safest, greatest effort for 10. I like to get as hugged up around that as I can. Really drive hard through the foot. 3, 2, 1. Now squeeze this tissue on the front and try to pull yourself deeper into that stretch feeling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Again, push foot into the floor. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1, and pull the front of the shin. Use those muscles. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Same thing. Drive foot into the floor. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1. Squeeze the shin and top of the foot together. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. I'm using the kettlebell as an anchor, which should allow a much greater strength of contraction or force of contraction here. There we go. Don't knock my water over. All right, same as before. Drive foot down into the ground. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 2, 1. Squeeze shin and foot together. Try to get deeper into that stretch. 4, 3, 2, 1. Drive ankle down. 3, 2, 1. Squeeze shin and top of the foot. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Final set here. Drive toes through the ground. Safest, greatest effort for 10. 3, 2, 1, and squeeze. 4, 3, 2, 1, and relax. Whew. All right, guys. That's about an hour's worth of knee and ankle. Hopefully there was something that clicked for you, either with your specific knee issue or your specific ankle issue. If you have any questions about how to apply this stuff to your unique situation, let us know. Fill out the check-in form, and we'll try to figure it out with you, all right? I'll probably continue kind of this single joint vantage point and perspective. It seems like it's been really helpful for a lot of you guys. So if you have suggestions for us, let us know. Otherwise, we'll see you on Table Talk, and hope you guys have a great week. Thank you very much.